Impregnated carbon ablator.
Senhoras e senhores, uma ótima tarde. Estamos transmitindo ao vivo pelo Estúdio 46, canal Estúdio 46, o retorno da nave Crew Dragon para a Terra. Você acompanha aí todo o centro de comando da NASA dos Estados Unidos e é daí que nós vamos acompanhar, né, o retorno da Crew Dragon, a Crew Dragon que retorna para a Terra. Aliás, com um dia de atraso, né, com o retorno da Crew Dragon, devido aí ao mau tempo. Vamos acompanhar ao vivo, vamos ao vivo agora com o áudio, inclusive original, da NASA para você acompanhar.
It's another class of thermal protection which is lighter weight versus pica and protects the underlying composite material or structure during re-entry to ensure the structural capabilities are maintained.
And while Dragon will experience temperatures well over 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit during peak re-entry conditions, the characteristics of the TPS, or Thermal Protection System.
Questão das condições, né? A NASA e a SpaceX decidiram adiar a decolagem, a desacoplagem da cápsula Crew Dragon, que levaria de volta à Terra os astronautas da missão Crew 4, devido a condições meteorológicas desfavoráveis. Seria nesta quinta-feira, dia 13, e agora passaram para hoje. Vamos acompanhar o áudio original.
First will be the 2 drogue chutes, followed by the 4 main chutes to guide Dragon to its first contact with Earth since launching in April earlier this year. Dragon will automatically deploy these parachutes when different pressure and positioning sensors on the capsule detect that they are at the right speed and altitude.
Vehicle velocity at drogue deploy is approximately 350 miles per hour, as we mentioned earlier, and those drogue parachutes do deploy at about 18,000 feet above the water. Now, vehicle velocity at main deploy is approximately 119 miles per hour and deploy at about 6,500 feet. Vehicle velocity at water splashdown is approximately 16 miles per hour, and the highest G-load the crew will experience during re-entry is approximately 3 to 5 Gs.
Você acompanha ao vivo, portanto, aqui pelo canal Estúdio 46, o retorno da Crew Dragon 5. Você acompanhou o lançamento da Crew Dragon 5, né, para a Estação Espacial, e agora o retorno. A mesma nave que levou aí os astronautas está retornando com mais astronautas. Esse retorno seria ontem, não aconteceu, dia 13, e hoje retornam. Quando faltavam pouco para a nave deixar a porta da Estação Espacial Internacional, ISS, o procedimento foi suspenso devido a problemas, e agora retornando. Com o adiamento, a NASA estima aí um comunicado de desacoplagem que acontecendo nessa sexta-feira, portanto, aconteceu um pouco mais cedo e agora já retornando à Terra. A NASA e a SpaceX continuam monitorando a frente fria que passa pela Flórida, mas agora está tudo bem e eles estão retornando, trazendo fortes ventos e chuvas, né, o que pode atrapalhar um pouco a chegada. Aí Por que não tem imagem, né? Sempre essa reentrada ela é mais complicada, então observa-se principalmente aí as imagens direto da NASA, você acompanhando aí da NASA a missão Crew 4, né, que é a nave 4, ficaram lá 6 meses e agora estão retornando. Lançada em 27 de abril com foguetes Falcon 9 da SpaceX, a missão Crew 4 levou o laboratório orbital e astronautas Samantha, da Agência Espacial Europeia, Robert. Daqui a pouquinho a gente fala os demais astronautas que estão retornando. Aí, as imagens da Crew 4, é a Crew Dragon, né, que está trazendo de volta os astronautas à Terra. Maravilha, né? É um carro. Daqui a pouco vamos acompanhar um pouco ao vivo.
But Dragon is flying autonomously, so they really just get to sit back and just monitor.
So we did mention that we are looking towards entering a period where we will have a communications blackout with the crew. That is because of the plasma that's building up, because we're using the atmosphere itself to help slow us down. We're going about 17,000 miles an hour, and we do need to slow the crew down before they re-enter the Earth, before they splash down. And as they re-enter the Earth's atmosphere, that will definitely happen. They'll be going about 350 miles per hour once they enter the other side of the atmosphere. And as we said, they'll be going less than 20 miles per hour at the time of splashdown.
Freedom, SpaceX for entry briefing.
And Freedom, standby.
VHL, I have no deltas from the previously briefed tablet timeline. Dragon systems are looking healthy and ready for entry. And we have no updates for splashdown. The recovery team is ready to support and weather's looking good. How copy?
We copy all, Arthur. We're looking forward to splashdown and seeing the recovery forces.
Crew there chatting with the core here in Mission Control Hawthorne. That's what you're seeing there on your screen. We did get to see a live view of the crew in their seats in the Dragon capsule as they're making their way back home. The suit's primary function is to protect the crew in the event of a cabin depressurization. And if that were to occur, the suit would inflate to provide a habitable environment long enough for the crew to return home. And there you can see them there. Right now they are also filling their suits with some cool nitrox that actually helps keep them cool. The suits are kind of an extension of the Dragon capsule. It's almost like they have their own personal AC unit on them. And the suits are flame-resistant materials on the outer layer. Also protects the crew in the event of a fire. They are custom-tailored single-piece suits. This means that the helmet, gloves, and boots all remain attached together. And the helmet that we were able to see on the screen that they're wearing is 3D printed nylon and does have a visor that pivots open. And then they do have quick disconnects or QDs on the right thigh, which mates to an umbilical on the seats. And that is what provides the air for ventilation, oxygen, nitrox for pressurization, and allows the electronics to be connected all from a single location on the suit. And again, if you're just now joining us, we are live watching Crew 4 return home to planet Earth from the International Space Station. We've had the deorbit burn, we've jettisoned the trunk for the vehicle, and the nose cone has closed on Dragon Freedom. And again, another live view inside of the capsule there.
And SpaceX from Freedom, tablets to secure restraints are tightened and our visors are down. We are ready for entry.
SpaceX copies for tablets, restraints, and visors. Please confirm that tablets are stowed with the loops as provided on the satchels.
Copy, welcome.
So we are now less than 20 minutes away from splashdown, and again we are going to be entering that blackout communication period. But once we are on the other side of that, things will happen pretty quickly. The drogue chutes will deploy.
And SpaceX Freedom tablets are all secure.
SpaceX copies. Thank you, Freedom. And at this time, we're just over 5 minutes from predicted comm blackout. We will see you on the other side at 2049.
Okay, cop from LOS, and we'll see you on the flip side at 2049.
5 minutos para a reentrada da Crew Dragon. Você acompanha ao vivo direto da NASA. Dentro de instantes, portanto, nós teremos a reentrada da Crew Dragon. Você acompanhando ao vivo aqui pelo canal Estúdio 46. Essa é a imagem da Crew Dragon ao vivo lá do espaço neste momento. São exatamente 17 horas 40 minutos e é agora, né? 38 minutos. É nesse momento que a Crew Dragon está retornando à Terra. Você acompanhou o lançamento da Crew Dragon 5, né? 5, e agora o retorno da Crew Dragon 4. A nave ficou lá na Estação Espacial e agora retorna com os astronautas que já estavam lá na Crew Dragon. Ao vivo pelo canal Estúdio 46 para todo o Brasil. Vamos acompanhar o áudio original direto da NASA.
Bringing it into the recovery vessel, and then after some private medical checks with the crew, we should see the crew egress a short time after that.
Ela comentando aí que os astronautas vão ter um atendimento médico, né? Logo após o seu regresso, eles já voltam e têm o atendimento médico. Eles estão caindo no Pacífico, no Oceano Pacífico, uma distância ali da região onde eles estão, e toda uma equipe médica preparada para receber a volta à Terra dos astronautas.
Prevents communications with here in mission control. Lasts about 6 minutes. It is nominal.
Então tá, mais 6 minutos, é uma comunicação importante desta viagem, mais 6 minutos.
Can communicate with the ground here in mission control.
And we do have the NASA plane, the WB-57, which is up in the air, and it's equipped with some imaging technology that will be able to get pretty much the first views of the Dragon capsule on its return back to Earth.
Aí o clima e a tecnologia, né, toda a tecnologia da NASA para averiguar aí
we are
o clima,
anticipating that
e aí você vê as
communications blackout
imagens.
and loss of signal here shortly. This is really the beginning of that period where the crew themselves will be re-entering the Earth's atmosphere.
A Crew Dragon retornando à Terra com os astronautas. Quem está aí? Tem o Robert, a Cash, o Jessica,
And at
todos
this
da
time,
NASA.
the Dragon is working through a slewing maneuver, which means that the Dragon is helping to orient itself in the proper orientation ahead of the re-entry of the Earth's atmosphere. Again, we're just a couple of minutes away from that anticipated blackout period.
We are just about a minute away from that communications blackout period. Again, it should last only about 6 minutes long. And this is what happens when the vehicle begins to heat up as it's entering back into the Earth's atmosphere and builds up a layer of plasma around the vehicle. Again, this is nominal, and we will establish communications once the vehicle is through that period.
A NASA estabelecendo comunicação, né, com o veículo, e é um momento de tensão agora, que nesses minutos, já é um minuto praticamente
So we are hearing that the
aterrissagem.
Dragon is beginning to hit the Earth's atmosphere here, really at the upper limits of the atmosphere. So that's going to help to
A
slow the
preocupação
vehicle
da
down
NASA
quite a
é
bit,
com a
but we are
atmosfera, né,
now
o
seconds away
clima
from the
ali na
anticipated
Flórida, nos
loss
Estados
of
Unidos,
signal.
onde está descendo a Crew Dragon. Seria, inclusive, essa missão seria ontem, mas devido ao mau tempo, foi adiada para hoje. Vamos acompanhar aí direto da NASA ao vivo. Você acompanha agora todo o controle, centro de controle da NASA. Por quê? Porque eles evitam de mostrar no momento da reentrada, porque é um momento mais tenso, né? Pode acontecer maiores problemas na reentrada da nave espacial. Que ela
Standing by for confirmation that we are in the communications blackout.
Lógico, tem todo o sistema de proteção. E lá cai no oceano, e lá do oceano é que os astronautas retornam para o navio, já com toda a equipe médica preparada para atender os astronautas.
And as we await that confirmation, you can see the crowd is starting to grow here in Hawthorne behind the Mission Control Center here. Looks like folks are trying to get a good view as we anticipate splashdown here in a little less than 15 minutes.
Yeah, we do get pretty excited when we are bringing crew back home. It is pretty exciting to watch them as they touch back down on planet Earth. They've been out in space for about 6 months now. Again, we are currently in the comms blackout period.
Nós agradecemos você que está acompanhando a nossa transmissão ao vivo, direto da NASA, com o retorno da Crew Dragon 4, a nave da SpaceX que aterriza, né? Volta novamente à Terra. É a mesma nave que subiu alguns dias atrás, levando os astronautas da Crew Dragon 5. Agora, a Crew Dragon 4 são os astronautas que estavam na Estação Espacial Internacional, estão retornando para a Terra. Você acompanhando ao vivo esta reentrada.
At this point, we are entering a communications blackout period, which lasts approximately 6 minutes due to plasma formation around the spacecraft. Now, during this time, no vehicle telemetry is received by mission control or the recovery team, and no external commanding of the vehicle or voice communication is possible. Now, as a reminder, Dragon is designed to fly itself, so during...
Nós vamos acompanhar toda a telemetria do retorno da nave Crew Dragon para a Terra.
17,500 miles per hour. Now, the top temperature Dragon will experience upon re-entry is about 3,500 degrees Fahrenheit. And again, the blackout period is expected to last about 6, maybe up to 7 minutes long.
And we are just about 4 minutes remaining in this anticipated communications blackout period. And during this re-entry phase, the crew is going to be experiencing a deceleration, and the team here on the ground is going to continue to monitor that, make sure that everything is proceeding as expected. But once we're on the other side of this communications blackout, that's when we'll begin to see the parachutes deploy, beginning with the drogue parachutes and then following with the main parachutes, and then we'll see splashdown and then the recovery process to get the crew onto the recovery vessel, and then out of the capsule will begin.
And we did mention the high temperatures that the vehicle is seeing during this blackout period. So there is nitrox flowing through the suits that the astronauts are in, and that helps keep them cool while the vehicle is getting very hot on the outside.
So we are getting our very first views there from the WB-57 of the capsule as it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere.
Já verificamos a cápsula, o retorno da cápsula Crew Dragon retornando à Terra. É como se fosse um asteroide, né? Caindo sobre a Terra. É a Crew Dragon retornando, as imagens logicamente com distância, né? Retornando a nave espacial Crew Dragon.
So the team will continue to track Dragon as it re-enters the Earth's atmosphere. We now have about 3 minutes remaining in the blackout period, but again, the WB-57 that is deployed is getting those views of Dragon already.
Once the expected blackout period is over, the Corps here in Mission Control will attempt to establish communications with the crew. So you may hear some call-outs checking in with the crew. And they will make that call-out until the crew does respond, which will confirm acquisition of signal.
We have about 2 minutes remaining in the anticipated period of communications blackout. Now, it's not an exact science. There might be some variation that occurs. We might hear from the crew a little earlier than we expected, or potentially a little bit later. But we are all on the edge of our seats, eagerly awaiting to hear from the crew. So far, everything looking good.
Dragon, SpaceX comm check.
Continuing to get those views from the WB-57 of Crew Dragon as it continues to make its way closer and closer to splashdown.
Freedom, SpaceX comm check.
And SpaceX, Freedom has you loud and clear, coming through 30 kilometers altitude.
Copy and concur. Expect automated chute deployment.
Freedom copies. We'll be monitoring.
Você acompanha aí o áudio já da Crew Dragon, tudo certo até o momento, eles estão retornando à Terra, a Crew Dragon. É um momento tenso agora, o momento da chegada da Crew Dragon ao vivo. Nós vamos retirar aqui para você acompanhar melhor.
To hear from the crew on the other side of that communications blackout period. We are continuing to get these great views from the WB-57 high altitude aircraft, providing that thermal imagery. We did even see the tail of entry of the vehicle, and it's just absolutely beautiful to see that. So we also heard a
Momento histórico, retornando a Crew Dragon para a Terra. Você acompanha ao vivo aqui pelo Estúdio 46 o retorno da Crew Dragon. Já é um momento tenso, né? A chegada da Crew Dragon. Boa sorte aí para os pilotos, os astronautas que retornam com a Crew Dragon rumo à Terra. Aí, retornando, né, essa nave vai cair agora no oceano, onde vários médicos vão... Aí você já vê as imagens, o retorno dos astronautas da missão Crew Dragon 4. Aliás, essa missão foi adiada devido ao mau tempo na região. A NASA e a SpaceX decidiram adiar e agora retorna para a Terra. A missão Crew 4 foi lançada em 27 de abril com o foguete Falcon 9 da SpaceX e agora retorna para a Terra. Você acompanha aí, nós vamos acompanhar daqui a pouquinho a abertura também dos paraquedas para frear, né, a Crew Dragon. É um momento tudo normal. A comemoração. Aí, sucesso, abriram os paraquedas para frear a Crew Dragon. E agora ela retorna, acompanhar agora, é a primeira fase, né? Abrindo os paraquedas para que a nave retorne normalmente para a Terra. Essa é a Crew Dragon. Aí você acompanha já as imagens da Crew Dragon ao vivo aqui pelo Estúdio 46, você acompanhando o retorno à Terra da Crew Dragon.
Very cool view of Dragon with the two drogue chutes. We are just anticipating the main chutes to deploy here shortly.
Os aplausos da equipe da NASA, porque tudo deu certo. Aí já abrindo realmente os paraquedas e segurando a Crew Dragon 4. Mais uma ação de sucesso da SpaceX. Essa levou, aliás, essa missão ao laboratório orbital. Aí também os astronautas Samantha Cristoffelet, da Agência Espacial Europeia, Robert Higgs, o Gel, a Jessica Hawking, todos dos Estados Unidos também, eles estiveram aí nessa missão, retornando agora à Terra.
And great news, as you can see there, the main chutes have deployed, slowing the Dragon vehicle down significantly, down to approximately 119
A SpaceX
miles per
está
hour.
propiciando, né, o retorno das naves tripuladas, porque desde os ônibus espaciais em 2011, dos acidentes ocorridos pela NASA, não ocorriam mais missões tripuladas. E agora, sempre os Estados Unidos estavam pegando carona, entre aspas, com os russos, e agora as naves da SpaceX propiciando aí o retorno à Terra. Vamos acompanhar.
Copy, 800.
Dragon is beginning to increase pressure in preparation for landing. And the mission control team here in Hawthorne is reporting the precise landing coordinates to the recovery team.
Tudo normal, comunicação com a Crew Dragon perfeita. Eles estão retornando à Terra.
600.
Já
The crew is now 600 meters
bem
away
próximos,
from splashing
retornando à
down. We
Terra
do
depois
expect
de
splashdown in
algum
about 2
tempo no
minutes from
espaço,
now.
na nave Crew Dragon, agora retornando à Terra e tudo ocorrendo bem,
Landing
perfeitamente.
in water is simpler, therefore more reliable, and it provides more margin against unlikely parachute.
Os quatro, né, informando que os quatro paraquedas segurando perfeitamente a Crew Dragon.
Provides more margin against unlikely parachute issues. We had to learn how to make Dragon waterproof, but once you do, it is
Sistema
a
único aí
rinse,
da Crew
review,
Dragon.
and reuse
Aliás, a
type
Crew
of
Dragon
process.
que copiou muito dos
And we are
russos,
just
né,
about a
das
minute
naves
away from
russas.
splashdown of the Dragon vehicle back onto
O que é
planet Earth.
diferente
And here are
é
good
o
callouts
Falcon
of the altitude of Dragon
os
as
foguetes, né, que são reaproveitáveis. Mas o retorno bem parecido aí com o sistema dos russos.
And again, that descent rate is as expected here. Pretty soon we should be able to see the view of the ocean come into view as Crew Dragon Freedom with 4 astronauts on board prepares to splash down after spending 170 days in space after launching on April 27th.
Aí já chegando os aplausos da equipe, porque tudo perfeito, tudo perfeito. Não digo aterrissagem, né? Porque ele voltou à Terra, mas caiu sobre a água, pousando calmamente aí sobre o Pacífico. Essa aí é a nave que nós acompanhamos o lançamento e agora retorno da Crew 4. Retornou a Crew. Agora existe o resgate, né? Ela boia no oceano. Daqui a pouco nós vamos acompanhar o navio já resgatando a Crew 4. O retorno para casa. Os astronautas Chell, Beb.
Copy, Freedom. We see stable 1. You are go for 4.800.
Estão vendo
And
livres
on behalf of
novamente.
SpaceX, welcome home. Thanks for flying SpaceX.
Felizes por voltar para casa e agradecendo a SpaceX. Essas são as falas dos astronautas. Bem-vindos de volta à Terra, Crew Dragon 4.
As you can see, Dragon Freedom has returned home, and NASA astronauts Chell, Bob,
Aí a
and
NASA
Jessica
comentando, você
and
pode ver aí
ESA
a Crew
astronaut
Dragon
Samantha
4
are back
retornando
on
para
Earth
casa.
after an approximately 5-hour return journey from space. The SpaceX recovery ship and team has been waiting for Dragon splashdown, and they will now make their way to the
Aí já
splashdown location.
chegando
And we did
o
hear
barco
the
que
call
vai
out that the vehicle
ajudar
is
no
in
resgate
stable 1. That's the configuration
da
that we were hoping for.
Dragon.
Stable 1 means it's in the ocean upright as
Aliás,
expected,
toda a
and
Quill
you can
vai
see that
ser
exactly on your
içada,
screen
né, para o
here.
navio,
So the teams have been
para que
ready
esses
and waiting
astronautas
about 3
retornem
nautical
para a
miles
Terra.
away. So it's
Primeiramente para o
going to
navio,
take them
depois para a
about
Terra,
30 minutes
onde
or so
terão
to make their
também
way to Chell, Bob,
atendimento
Jessica,
médico.
and Samantha inside. But about a minute and 30 seconds after the landing, Mission Control Hawthorne will give the go for final approach and the safe approach. And then about 2 minutes after landing, the approach boat will begin.
Aí você acompanha as imagens da Crew Dragon, que é a nave espacial da SpaceX, que retornou à Terra trazendo os astronautas da Crew Dragon. Você acompanhando ao vivo aqui pelo Estúdio 46. Deixa um salve aí, você que está acompanhando, o seu nome, de onde você está acompanhando a nossa transmissão ao vivo. Direto da NASA, direto da Crew Dragon. Comentando assim, você nos ajuda a fazer mais conteúdo como este, né? É o retorno da Crew Dragon para a Terra. E você nota aí, né? Essa é uma nave branquinha no lançamento e agora com o retorno à Terra, como ela se queima devido à forte temperatura na reentrada da atmosfera.
And Mission Control here in Hawthorne did give the go for that approach and recovery.
Momento tenso agora, né, que é para a retirada dos astronautas. A Crew que deve ser içada para um navio. Nós vamos acompanhar daqui a pouquinho a reentrada dos astronautas no planeta Terra.
And so here shortly we should be able to get some views of the fast boats as they approach the Dragon Freedom with the crew still on board.
Freedom, SpaceX is go for recovery personnel to approach. Expect personnel alongside within the next couple minutes.
Livres a SpaceX em poucos minutos.
Okay, copy.
Vocês entenderam?
Friendly faces.
Alguns minutos e já estarão livres. Essas imagens estão sendo transmitidas ao vivo, viu? Ao vivo, direto dos Estados Unidos, direto da NASA. Você acompanha com a gente o lançamento do foguete e agora a aterrissagem. Aí os veículos ao redor, né? Ao redor da Crew Dragon, vai acontecer aí a içagem da Crew Dragon para o navio. Vários bots se aproximando agora neste momento, você acompanha tudo o que precisa ser feito, está sendo feito no momento, você olha, observa, né?
So it will take a little bit of time before we do see the crew egress or exit the capsule. We're shooting for less than an hour to bring the Dragon onto the recovery ship and open the hatch to egress.
Nós estamos ao vivo pelo canal Estúdio 46, transmitindo aí o retorno da Crew Dragon 4 para a Terra ao vivo.
Once these checkouts are complete, you'll see a member of the recovery team actually climb on board the capsule.
Para que eles possam retornar a Crew 4 para a Terra. Nós estamos ao vivo, acompanhando ao vivo. Você acompanha junto com a gente.
We are looking for permission to come on board via the display camera view only.
Okay, you're welcome aboard.
Mas dá uma atenção, né? Essa reentrada você acompanha aí. Para quem gosta de astronomia, gosta de naves espaciais, gosta de missões espaciais, é realmente um momento muito tenso. Essa reentrada, logicamente, agora já... Aí as imagens, ao vivo, direto da Crew Dragon. A imagem, você tá no cockpit junto com eles aí. Essa é a imagem que eles estão tendo, né? Ali de dentro, fazendo tchauzinho. Dá um salve aí, galera. Dá um salve.
And getting some waves from the crew
salve
on board Freedom post splashdown. Looks like they're
alegria, né?
doing pretty well.
Retornar para
First time
casa de uma
feeling
viagem já é uma alegria. Imagina retornar do espaço. Foi 170 dias olhando a Terra lá de cima, eles estão de volta para a Terra, de volta para o oceano, né?
All the way until they are brought on board the recovery vessel.
Os astronautas de volta à Terra. Você vê as imagens on-board da Crew Dragon, ali você vê os computadores, os painéis, né, da SpaceX.
Now, we do expect to hear some words from NASA's Brandy Dean, who is actually on the recovery ship and was able to witness the reentry and splashdown of Crew Dragon Freedom. Brandy, if you're able to hear us, can you tell us a little bit about what it was like to witness 4 humans return to Earth after their mission aboard the International Space Station?
Já sendo preparados os cabos, né, de aço para o retorno da Crew Dragon, o último lançamento, digamos assim, né? Um içamento. Aí vai ser o retorno final dos astronautas para a Terra e vão ter todo um atendimento médico.
Down, the parachutes were just throwing the sun behind them. It was gorgeous. And so we are now underway and making our way towards the team here on the boat was so excited. There were cheers. We heard the double room as it answered.
O que eles querem é voltar para casa e dançar, se divertir com um par de sapatos e descansar.
Its way down. So it's been a really great day so far. We're looking forward to seeing the crew here on board the ship.
That's wonderful to hear, Brandy. Can you tell us a little bit about what the crew is doing and is done to prepare for this moment from your perspective as you've been on the recovery vessel?
Você acompanha pelo Estúdio 46 o retorno, você que está chegando agora aí na internet, nós estamos acompanhando ao vivo o retorno dos astronautas da Crew Dragon 4. Aqui no canal tem um vídeo de lançamento da Crew Dragon 5, essa mesma nave retorna com os astronautas que ficaram mais de 100 dias, 170 dias no espaço e agora retornam através da Crew. E essas imagens aí são as imagens on-board e as imagens off-board, né, do lado de fora, você acompanhando como é a chegada da Crew no Oceano Pacífico.
Stand by for PMC with SpaceX flight surgeon.
Mais 25 minutos e a nave SpaceX vai estar atracada no navio. Você acompanha ao vivo junto com a gente.
So, Brandy, if you're still with us, we did just hear that all of those hypergol checks went as expected, and we can see that the rigging has begun. I'm sure you have a much better view of it yourself on the boat, but can you tell us a little bit more about what the crew on the boat is doing to get ready for the next steps to bring the capsule onto the boat? And it sounds like we may have lost Brandy. They are out at sea, so communications can be a bit spotty. We might be able to join back with her a bit later, but you are seeing right now someone on the capsule. They are doing what is called rigging. You see that they're tossing some different equipment up to them, and that's to ensure that the vehicle is ready.
Freedom SpaceX, I will be privatizing Dragon to ground now. The next call you hear will be from the SpaceX flight surgeon on the recovery vessel.
Freedom copies.
And so those call outs about a private medical conference just to ensure that the crew is all feeling healthy, and if there's anything that they may need medically wise once they do get on the boat. That is, of course, privatized for medical and personal reasons, but we are continuing to get really great views here of the rigging process. As I was saying, this individual is working to secure Dragon and enable it to be lifted onto the recovery vessel here in just a short time from now. And so once this process is complete, the next steps will be to hoist up Dragon and place it onto the boat, onto the platform. And then that platform itself will be moved so that the crew can egress a short time after that. Then once the crew is on the boat and back inside of the capsule, they will board helicopters that are on the boat to bring them back to Ellington Field, which is near the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. And then they will bring European Space Agency astronaut Samantha Cristoforetti back to Europe.
Senhoras e senhores, nós estamos transmitindo ao vivo pelo canal Estúdio 46 da Crew Dragon. Esta é a nave Crew Dragon 4. Você está on board e ao vivo, direto da NASA. Essa nave é uma nave espacial criada pela SpaceX para levar astronautas, né, para a Estação Espacial, em especial os astronautas americanos, da Estação Europeia, japoneses. Foram há alguns dias, você acompanhou pelo canal o lançamento ao vivo e agora você acompanha o retorno à Terra da Crew Dragon 4. A Crew Dragon estava programada para desembarcar na Estação Espacial agora no início do mês, mas devido a um problema de clima, ela retornou um pouco mais tarde. Aí agora o retorno da Crew Dragon você acompanha mesmo atrasado. Eles decidiram adiar para hoje, agora retornam a Crew Dragon. Com o adiamento, a NASA estima que logo, né, dentro de meia hora, dentro de 20 minutos, já essa nave esteja no navio. É a Crew Dragon, você acompanha ao vivo aí, trazendo, aliás, o porquê que foi adiado de ontem, né? Ventos fortes passando pela Flórida, trazendo fortes ventos, chuvas perto da zona de amerizagem nos litorais do Atlântico e do Golfo, então teve muito problema para o retorno. E agora o retorno você acompanha aí um tempo bom ali na Flórida e você acompanha ao vivo esse retorno da Crew Dragon.
Left around the time of undocking today, and then the NASA and ESA
ali será o local, né? Você vê que ela tem um sistema para içar a Crew Dragon. O navio vai içar a Crew Dragon e vamos acompanhar daqui a pouco.
Just as long as it takes for the crew to kind of work up to making the helicopter ride back to dry land. They will do a few medical tests first. They'll give them an IV to get the fluid that they lost, while they were in space, back into their bodies, help them readjust to gravity a little better. Just do regular medical checkouts, and that sort of thing. And then when they get back to Jacksonville, that's when the fun really starts with the scientific tests that are things, a number of things, including tests that will kind of talk a little bit more about what to expect when we are sending crews to the moon and Mars. They'll do things like having them step up stairs and see how they're able to handle that, having been in space for several months, and get on the ground, pretend like they've fallen, and try to get back up. Things like that will really help us be sure that we're ready when we're sending crews to different dry land in the future. And then from there, they'll get on planes, go back to Houston. They will spend at least a night, or the Americans will spend at least a night in Three-Quarters at Johnson Space Center to make sure they're doing well before they jump right into their recovery period of medical tests, scientific tests, and a lot of exercise to get them reconditioned and used to life back in gravity again. Meanwhile, Samantha will be going back to Europe. She'll leave pretty much right away once they get back to Houston.
Thank you so much, Brandy, for that insight and sharing your firsthand experience of what it was like to witness splashdown from the recovery vessel. We really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us, but we'll let you get back to it and enjoy your time out there.
Tá aí você acompanhando ao vivo a aterrissagem, né, da Crew Dragon 4 retornando. Amarra um cabo de aço ali e retorna. É assim que acontece o retorno de uma nave espacial para a Terra. Eles acabaram de descer no oceano e está ali o navio já preparando para receber aí essa nave espacial depois de dias, mais de 170 dias no espaço, retornando para a Terra, a Crew Dragon.
5 p.m. Pacific time this afternoon, and you do see a wonderful photo on the left hand of your screen of that splashdown with the main parachutes all deployed. Really the moment that Crew Dragon Freedom touched Earth again for the first time in 170 days.
Você acompanhou o splashdown, né? Que é aquela caída, queda realmente maravilhoso, hein? Muito bonito, muito bonito. E aí, retornando a Crew Dragon para o navio, mais 15 minutos aí e eles já estarão no navio. A Crew Dragon, você acompanha ao vivo aqui pelo Estúdio 46. Você acompanhou a reentrada e agora acompanha a içagem do navio com os astronautas. Vamos acompanhar daqui a pouco.
You are seeing on your screen a live view inside of the Dragon capsule with our crew patiently waiting in their seats. They will remain harnessed into their seats until the hatch is actually opened on the Dragon vehicle.
And we did see the rigging process that was taking place a short time ago, and now we're getting another view of it here. That person on the capsule is called the rigger, and they are working to secure Dragon to rigging hardware to safely lift it up and out of the water. And that will be done using that A-frame, which is the boxy frame that you see towards the back of the boat there.
We are getting some pretty great views with this being in the daytime. We have splashed down in the nighttime where it's a little bit harder to see, but today we've got some light and get to watch the process pretty clearly here.
É o processo de içagem da Crew Dragon 4. Os astronautas da Crew 4, essa nave subiu com a Crew 5, né, com os astronautas. E agora retornando com a Crew 4, os astronautas da NASA. Vão ser içados daqui a pouquinho. É uma imagem, atenção, hein? Atenção que vai ser agora. Daqui a pouquinho já estão muito próximos do navio. E daqui a pouquinho preparando-se. E ali já tem, inclusive, o navio da SpaceX, o símbolo ali da SpaceX. Sucesso, né? As naves da SpaceX do Elon Musk.
Dragon has already autonomously completed several steps to safe itself following splashdown.
É assim que se completa a missão. Com sucesso, a Crew Dragon. Vamos aumentar o som aqui para você acompanhar ao vivo. Ao vivo, direto dos Estados Unidos. Retorno da Crew Dragon, direto da Flórida. 1h55 lá na Flórida. 18 horas 20 minutos no Brasil. E a Crew Dragon está sendo pescada, içada para o navio. Falando aí sobre
Dragon successfully re-entered the Earth's atmosphere, followed by deployment of its parachutes to slow the spacecraft down to a gentle splashdown. And we saw that moments ago, just a few minutes ago, rather, and we had really gorgeous views of it. So we're now following the final part of Chell, Bob, Jessica, and Samantha's journey as Dragon is going to be lifted out of the water and placed on the recovery boat.
Ao vivo, estamos ao vivo.
On detection of landing, Dragon autonomously releases the main chutes to prevent wind from pulling the spacecraft. Dragon then automatically saves any pyrotechnics still present on the vehicle and may automatically perform additional minor system reconfigurations.
Olha que
The astronauts
interessante, que
remain
interessante
seated
que é.
and in their
É o momento
seats
agora
and in their suits as
do
well
retorno
at this point, but
dos
the
astronautas
onboard
à
air
Terra.
conditioning
Momentos
keeps
finais.
temperatures in check
O
inside of the
guincho,
spacecraft,
o
and the
guincho da
communication systems
SpaceX.
on board remain
Serviço de
powered so that the
guincho
crew can continue to communicate.
espacial
And we did
da
see that
SpaceX.
motion of the A-frame as it was getting ready to lift the
Você acompanha aí a issagem da Crew Dragon. Momentos finais, direto dos Estados Unidos.
the splashdown point already.
Ela fez
They
o
were followed by the
splashdown, que
main
é a
recovery
queda,
vessel,
né, até o
which
oceano.
is really getting
E
ready
agora
to lift the
tem essa
vehicle
issagem.
now at this specific roll. The first approach is focused on immediate safety inspection of the capsule integrity and checking for any presence of hypergolic propellant vapors, ensuring that it is safe for the recovery vessel to approach the Dragon spacecraft. All of those checks performed well, and once the spacecraft is cleared for full approach, the team begins rigging the capsule for water recovery by the recovery ship. That process is underway and just wrapped up. And then the second boat is really responsible for a parachute recovery and serves as a redundant boat to the first. We'll also see a team member on a jet ski helping to gather up the now detached parachutes, and it looks like they may have already completed that process. I'm not seeing them. They might be just off the screen.
Now, it took a little over 10 minutes for the recovery crew to complete their safety checks, and once they did complete that, great news, all preparations for rigging have been completed with that confirmation of the comms there, so we should see Dragon start to lift out of the water here in just a few seconds.
Você acompanha ao vivo, direto dos Estados Unidos da SpaceX, a issagem da Crew Dragon 4.
Dragon will remain known as the Nest, and Dragon will remain in this nest during the crew extraction and then for the journey back into port. So here momentarily we will see the capsule being lifted and set on the nest. It will then be centered and oriented and then translated into the hangar underneath the helipad aboard the ship so that we can open up the hatch. And once open, a SpaceX medical doctor will be the first one to check in on Chell, Bob, Jessica, and Samantha and see if they're ready for egress or getting out. And you see that motion underway now as Dragon is lifted into the nest.
This is a very cool view and cool process as we lift the Dragon vehicle, and you can see the nest there that it's going to be sat down into. While Dragon's top hatch is used to connect to the space station, the astronauts will egress from the
Momentos
Dragon's
finais,
side hatch.
Issagem da cápsula chegando aí no navio, e aí os astronautas vão ter todo o atendimento médico, logicamente vão ter a abertura, né, que é um momento especial aí, os astronautas reverem a Terra.
April.
So it is important to note that Chell, Bob, Jessica, and Samantha will be getting some assistance from the recovery team while they are exiting the capsule. This is the same process for any returning long-duration crew members, as returning to a gravity environment can wreak havoc with our vestibular system responsible for maintaining balance and motion. And of course, safety is always our #1 priority. So you'll see Chell, Bob, Jessica, and Samantha helped out of the capsule and assisted the few feet to the medical quarters aboard the boat. And if you've ever watched crews return on a
Aí você
Soyuz
acompanha,
mission, this is the
ela é
same
colocada
process as when
nesse
astronauts
sistema aí, a hora que ela estiver totalmente acoplada, ela vai para o meio do barco, você está acompanhando ao vivo. Agora ela vai ser um sistema automático, vai levar a crew para o meio do barco. Você vê que ela está no final, que é o local onde ela foi, e daqui a pouquinho vai para o meio do barco. Vamos acompanhar?
This is a period where any time-critical cargo can also be recovered from the spacecraft, with the remainder waiting.
Freedom, SpaceX, welcome aboard the recovery vessel. Recovery personnel are going to be completing final checks and stand by for translation to the egress platform.
Freedom copies.
Great news there as Dragon sits in the nest there, and you did hear some comms. What they're going to do is, once they de-rig this, they will slide the Dragon vehicle to a platform where the astronauts can easily exit that side hatch there.
And for those of you that might be just joining us, we did have Crew 4 successfully undock from the International Space Station just about 5 hours ago, and they splashed down at 1:55 p.m. Pacific time. All went as expected through the deorbit burn, and the parachutes deployed as expected. The capsule is now lifted onto the boat, and we are standing by for the translation to occur. And once that translation moves the Dragon capsule up underneath the helicopter pad, the recovery team will then be able to work on opening up the hatch and removing the crew from the capsule.
Você acompanhando aí a nave Crew Dragon. Vão abrir agora? Será que vão? Daqui a pouquinho, hein? Daqui a pouquinho, abertura da nave Crew Dragon 4.
Crew 4 did splash down just about 30 minutes ago and is now already on the recovery vessel.
E agora?
The recovery vessel being used today is named Megan, after Crew 2 astronaut Megan MacArthur.
A Crew Dragon vai ser içada ainda para o centro.
So we are standing by for that translation maneuver to occur.
Os astronautas terão seu
You can see on the
atendimento.
recovery vessel the platform that they will translate the Dragon vehicle to. You saw the view earlier. The hatch is slightly above ground level, so that platform will allow the crew to exit the vehicle. Again, if you are just now joining us, the Crew 4 crew is now back on planet Earth. They are still inside of their seats and suits inside of that Dragon capsule that you see there on your screen.
And so after this translation maneuver occurs, the next steps will be for the folks on the recovery vessel that are specialized in opening up that side hatch that will begin that process. Now, we have mentioned that we do have medical doctors on board that will help take care of the crew after the hatch opening, and will conduct a series of initial checks before they are flown by helicopter back to shore. The recovery vessel, as you can imagine, takes quite a bit of time to get out into the splashdown zone, so the crew is flown off of the vehicle on helicopters and then take aircraft and flight back home to Houston for our 3 NASA astronauts on board, and then for our ESA astronaut on board, Samantha Cristoforetti, she'll head back to Europe.
And the crew has been out in space on the International Space Station for about 6 months. They do get to work out while they're out on the space station, working out in microgravity. But that is why the medical team is there, to make sure that they are safe and healthy, make sure that they are able to adjust to gravity. It's probably a pretty big adjustment being gone from gravity for such a long period of time. So the medical team will be there to make sure that they can exit the vehicle safely, and then we'll do some private medical checks with each of the individuals. And I'm loving these views here of the recovery vessel. We don't often get to see this because sometimes it is nighttime, depending on when undocking and splashdown does happen for the crew members. So this is a pretty nice treat to get to see this great view, and you can see the helicopter pad on top of the recovery vessel there that Sandra was mentioning. There will be a helicopter that comes and lands there shortly once the crew is or has egressed the Dragon vehicle and is ready to fly back to land, and then take another flight on a plane to Houston, with Samantha taking a flight back to Europe.
And it looks like we are seeing that translation maneuver underway.
Daí nesse momento eles estão puxando a cápsula para o centro do navio e vai acontecer agora a abertura oficial da cápsula e você vai acompanhar os astronautas retornando oficialmente à Terra. Tudo certo, retiraram ali a proteção, que vai ser aberta agora, hein? Chegou o momento. E a escadinha para abrir.
And as you can see from this view inside Crew Dragon Freedom,
ver as imagens dentro da Crew Dragon,
does have their visors.
O visor que eles têm aí.
Kind of hard to tell from this angle if they're up or down.
Vai ser aberta a Crew Dragon para que eles retornem para o navio, tenham atendimento médico depois de dias e dias. Primeira vez depois de 170 dias que eles estão de volta. Em abril foi quando eles partiram para a Estação Espacial. Olha, é complicado para se acostumar com a gravidade. A gente, não sei quem já fez viagem de navio, até que você retorna para a Terra, você ainda continua chacoalhando um pouco. Imagina no espaço, né? Para você se acostumar na Terra. Deve ser meio tenso. Você acompanhando aí ao vivo a Crew Dragon.
And we were seeing some views of the personnel on the recovery vessel who are specialized in opening up that hatch, begin to get everything ready to begin that process. So we do expect hatch opening to come just a short time from now.
Uma expectativa, mas um pequeno tempo, segundo informações da NASA, e já vai ser aberta a cápsula.
And once that hatch is open, we'll see the footrest actually be removed before the crew egresses, and that's really just to help make egressing a little bit easier.
Crew Dragon. Aí o navio, você acompanha o navio e o inside, né, dentro da
still inside Freedom, but not for long. And on the right-hand side is the recovery vessel. You can see the Crew Dragon Freedom tucked underneath the helicopter pad there after that translation maneuver, which occurred just a couple of minutes ago.
Also, prior to hatch opening, the pressure inside of the cabin must be equalized with the outside environment, so that is also happening at this moment. Up and
Freedom, SpaceX, side hatch open.
SpaceX livre. Estão livres para a saída. Aí já.
And the side hatch is open. These recovery personnel
Está
are the
aberto.
first people the crew has
O
seen
tchauzinho dos
on
astronautas.
Earth since
Estão
their
vendo a
launch
Terra,
day.
estão vendo a Terra.
And that those folks they saw on that day were
Primeira vez,
the
depois de
closeout crew
170
who
dias
closed
vendo
the
a Terra
hatch
de novo, vendo
back in April.
pessoas, já é fantástico, né?
I believe that is the flight surgeon there
Depois de um voo perfeito.
briefing
Então,
the crew, welcoming the
volta, vendo
crew,
se
as
tá
well
tudo
as briefing them
certo.
for the next steps in the operation.
Perfeito aí o retorno da Terra da Crew Dragon. Conversando com a SpaceX e eles vão retornar já, saindo agora. Você acompanha, um momento especial.
Now that the side hatch is open, the recovery personnel are going to work to remove those footrests, and then after that we should see the crew begin to egress the capsule.
There, I believe they are removing those footrests. It looks like they grabbed all 4 of them.
Some smiles, thumbs up. Looks like they're feeling pretty good. So we are standing by for the egress of Crew 4. They will exit the capsule one at a time.
And also getting a nice welcome home photo in.
And as the crew exits, you might be able to see a stretcher in the view. That is perfectly normal and expected. It's part of the nominal procedure. As we mentioned, the crew will be taken to medical facilities. So this is really just all part of the standard procedure that we do for any crew return.
Yes, again, they have been out in space in microgravity for about 6 months. So they may need some assistance adjusting back to gravity here back on Earth.
So I did hear that there's a special guest on board looking to welcome Crew 4 back to Earth. In fact, it's the namesake for the vessel that they are on. NASA astronaut Megan MacArthur there in your screen with on the left of your screen. In the hat, you can have a view of her here on the left of your screen here. She's, I'm sure, looking forward to welcoming the crew back to Earth.
That's really awesome to have her on board, especially the vessel that they named, that we named after her.
Absolutely. So it looks like they're continuing to remove those footrests ahead of egress.
See, there is a crew member there helping to remove the harness, the umbilicals, make sure that the crew is ready to get out of their seat and exit or egress the Dragon vehicle.
And once the crew does egress, they'll take part in those medical checks, and then after that they will board helicopters where they will fly back to shore, at which point they will board a plane and fly back to the Ellington Airport just outside of the Johnson Space Center in Houston. And then for our ESA, or European Space Agency astronaut, Samantha Cristoforetti, she'll head back to Europe. And so from this view over the shoulder of the crew, kind of looking behind the crew, from left to right, we can't see her right now, but on the farthest left is European Space Agency astronaut Samantha Cristoforetti. And then in the view on the left of your screen is the commander of Crew Dragon Freedom, NASA astronaut Kjell Lindgren. To his right, which we can see on our screen, is NASA astronaut Bob Hines. And then to his right, again, we can't see her just yet, but we will in a moment here once they egress, is NASA astronaut Jessica Watkins. Now, this was the first flight for Bob Hines and Jessica Watkins. Both Samantha and Kjell had flown previously.
I also believe you mentioned a pretty cool fun fact about Samantha being having one of the longest amount of time out in space, correct?
Yeah, that's right. So Samantha Cristoforetti now is second in the running for longest space flight by any woman. She has totaled 369 days in space over her 2 flights, and she is second only to now retired NASA astronaut Peggy Whitson.
Looks like the first to exit their seat is pilot Bob Hines.
And so again, you do see that stretcher to the left of the screen there. That is all part of our standard procedures. Looks like we're getting some claps and cheers for Bob Hines. First out of Crew Dragon Freedom.
And a high five to Megan MacArthur.
And so as we just saw, Bob Hines was the very first to exit or egress the capsule. He spent a total of 170 days in space. This was his very first space flight. And it looks like next up we will have the commander, Kjell Lindgren, who will exit the capsule. This is his second space flight. He's logged a total of 311 days in space.
Mais aplausos, porque o retorno dos astronautas para a Terra. Primeira vez. É um momento marcante, né? Que é o retorno aí. Você vê que as pernas ainda estão desacostumadas, sentando ali, porque não é normal, né? Depois de um bom tempo fora, conseguiram chegar. Aí, o tchauzinho. Tudo certo.
Great smiles and waves there.
E não é fácil, viu?
A big high five to NASA astronaut.
Vamos ver o próximo astronauta? Vamos ver o próximo. Os astronautas da Crew Dragon retornando à Terra depois de tempos. 170
Recovery
dias.
personnel now working to get Jessica
Fantástico, né?
Watkins
Você
ready to
acompanhando ao vivo
egress.
junto com a gente. Essa é a imagem dos astronautas, né? Que eles têm dentro da cápsula Crew Dragon e o regresso deles para a Terra. Já sendo retirado ali os equipamentos, os experimentos, né, que foram feitos com a Crew Dragon. Momento marcante aí, o retorno da Crew Dragon para a Terra. Ali já não são mais os astronautas, já as imagens da equipe da SpaceX fazendo a averiguação final, porque eles estão todos com máscara, né, para acompanhar. Minha filha estava perguntando aqui, o que é isso, né? É o retorno da nave espacial da Crew Dragon, que é aquele foguetão que, a ponta do foguete, né, onde os astronautas agora estão retornando para a Terra e indo para o navio. Legal, né? Bem interessante aí o retorno da Crew Dragon para a Terra.
So just 5 hours ago, this vehicle was docked to the International Space Station, and now we have 2 of the 4 crew members having been removed after a successful splashdown.
Sucesso, splashdown.
They're standing by for another first-time flyer, Jessica Watkins, as she is egressed from the capsule.
46, mais um astronauta retornando. Olha aí, a retirada do astronauta. Depois de 170 dias de volta à Terra. Mais um astronauta retornando
And there
à Terra.
she is, NASA astronaut Jessica Watkins,
Aí,
standing up for the first time in about 6 months.
Astronauta retornando à Terra. Ele senta ali numa espécie de uma cadeira de rodas, né, para se adaptar melhor. Mas tudo bem que é astronauta que retorna à Terra. Agora respirando ar limpo, né, puro, o ar terráqueo.
The final crew member that will be removed is European Space Agency
final da Crew
astronaut Samantha
Dragon
Cristoforetti,
4.
who after this mission has logged
Samantha.
369 days in space over her
Essa
2
longa
flights,
missão.
which again, that does make her the second on the all-time list for most days in space by a woman. And that is second to NASA's Peggy Whitson, who logged 665 days in space over her 3 space flights.
Você acompanha a Crew Dragon, retorno à Terra da nave espacial da SpaceX. A você que acompanha o canal Estúdio 46, nosso muito obrigado. Inscreva-se no canal, compartilhe esse vídeo com seus amigos. Nós vamos encerrando por aqui a transmissão ao vivo da chegada dos astronautas da Crew Dragon para a Terra. Obrigado pela sua companhia. Inscreva-se no canal, comente esse vídeo, compartilhe esse vídeo com seus amigos. Comentando, a gente fará mais conteúdo como esse para você. Forte abraço e até a próxima.
Is ESA astronaut Samantha Cristoforetti, now egressed from the Dragon vehicle, the final crew member of Crew 4 to exit the vehicle.
Well, now that Chell Lindgren, Bob Hines, Jessica Watkins, and Samantha Cristoforetti are safely back home on Earth and getting checked out by the NASA medical team, we're going to wrap up our live coverage of the return. This all kicked off on April 20th.